Hi everyone, welcome back. We are going to look at the next four of our horses to follow, and we will start off with the David Pipe Trained Night Edition. Now, as you can see, Night Edition has had, 7 runs in his career so far. He's finished second 3 times, which is good, and he's also had a win. His last 2 seconds came at Kelso in a handicap where if you won that and then won at Cheltenham, you won a bonus. His second, back in March 2020, was in the Fred Winter behind Aramax, so he had the Cheltenham form. And I believe that David Pipe saved him purely to try and win the bonus by winning at Kelso and winning at Cheltenham. He didn't win at Kelso, so he didn't run again. Interestingly, the horse who beat him was the Shunter, who did go on to win at the Cheltenham Festival, did claim the bonus, and has run well in a Grade 1 at Aintree, whilst the third horse, Valvois, has since won 3 times, including over fences since. And the fourth horse was Solo, who I think is better than what he's shown and is actually a horse we're going to come on to in a bit. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't see anything of Night Edition for most of the season. So although it's a horse to follow, this could be a late horse to follow. I could see him running sometime in February and running okay, but not troubling the judge. I could then see him running in March in the Imperial Cup, or he could go back to Kelso, but I think they'll go for the Imperial Cup this time. Winning the Imperial Cup, because David Pipe knows how to do that. He knows how to win the Imperial Cup and then win the bonus. He's done it with Gaspara, and he did it with another horse. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. So David Pipe knows how to win the 2 races and win the bonus. So I think Night Edition is one to very much have on side. If he's running in a worthless, like 10, 12, 14 grand race on his return, I would be surprised if they had him tuned up. It's when he runs in a race that's either worth a lot, so he could go for the Betfair Hurdle, but he disappointed in it last year, so I'm not sure that will be their aim. He could come back to Kelso, or he could go to Sandown, is where I think he'll end up, and then be at Cheltenham trying to win the bonus. So that's a horse that could be a long-term, full season plan that you need to keep your eye out for. The second horse we're going to talk about is a horse called Solo. Now, Solo is not one of the most impressive, but a very, very impressive Adonis winner back in February of 2020, beating Fujimoto Flyer for Nicky Henderson. And he won it really impressive, and he looked like he was going to be very, very smart. He went to Cheltenham for the Triumph Hurdle. He went a 4-1. He didn't run great. He finished 8th. Since then, he's not really done too much. He was 4th at Wincanton. He was 5th at Sandown. Disappointed at Kempton when stepped up in trip. He then dropped back in trip, possibly to try and win the race that the Shunter won to aim for a bonus. Although I don't know whether that was really the plan, because he'd run so disappointingly at Cheltenham the year before. I think if Paul Nicholls had tried to win the bonus, he would have sent a horse that had run well at Cheltenham before to try and win it. I believe Solo's going to go over fences this year, and that's where I want to get stuck into Solo. I think he's going to be a much better horse over fences. He's still only young. He's only a 5-year-old turning 6. Don't give up on him just yet. It wouldn't surprise me if he can pick up a couple of nice handicaps over fences. I do think he'll want to be dropped back to the 2-mile trip personally. There wasn't anything wrong with his 4th behind the Shunter, subsequent Cheltenham Festival winner. Night Edition, I think it'd be laid out to try and win the bonus. Valvois won 3 races since. Solo was 4th. There was nothing wrong with that, really. But wait for him over fences, and hopefully he's won at the end of the season. At the end of the season, we can look back and go, yeah, that was quite a good one. He surprised a few people in some races. So Solo is one I want to add to our horses to follow. Third horse here is Plan of Attack. Now, this could almost be another. He's got one race in mind, and I really do think he's got one race that he'll be running and actually going for it. And that is the Kimya again. He finished 4th in the Kimya back in 2020 when running a really good race in what looked a strong Kimya. He then came back last year and he was in the process of running a really big race, coming around the outside when he hit that third last, and when you hit that third last, you go. He fell, hampered. Who did he hamper? Our other one in the race, which was very frustrating, and I can't think of his name at the moment. But that's not coming. It's too late. I can't think what they're called. He then ran at Sandown, disappointed. He's run at Galway, disappointed. His mark is dropping. He didn't run great up to it last year. Look, he ran in September here. He ran in November, pulled up. He then ran at Leopardstown, 8th. This was the one run that he was running well in at Cheltenham. And I think that's where they're going to be aiming him again. It's quite difficult because sometimes what happens with these horses is you're like, oh, I really like Plan of Attack for the Kimya. By the time the Kimya comes around, you're like, actually, I want that one, and that one, because they've been running better, or that looked like it's shaped quite nicely. And you take out one that you've almost had your eye on potentially all season, and you take it out, and then it goes and runs a really big race or even wins, and you feel a bit stupid. So there's some horses that I always put down in my list that regardless of what happens, I want to back that at Cheltenham. Unless it's, a handicapper that you've aimed at a handicap, it's running in a grade 1, it really hasn't got a chance. It's 200 to 1 in the grade 1. If it's running in the handicap, especially if it's in that race you suggested, have a small bet on it, even if by the time that race comes around, you're not as big a fan. Trust your own judgment. I always tell everybody that. Trust your own judgment. If you believe you've spotted something, or you believe you've seen a horse with a lot of potential or who's going to run a big race in a certain race, trust your judgment, even if on the day you're not as keen. The final horse I want to talk about is a horse called Eclair De Beaufort. Finished 4th in the county hurdle last year when I think he should have won. I'm sure after he jumped the last, he got squeezed between two of them and couldn't get through when he was really making relentless strides and getting closer and closer. And I think he would have squeezed, if he'd squeezed through the gap, he would have managed to get up the hill and win. He didn't. So what's he done since, and why was he running in that, considering he'd finished 2nd in the Grand Annual the year before over fences? After he ran in that, they brought him back in November and he ran at Navan and he fell over fences. And I think they thought it knocked his confidence a bit. It may well have knocked his confidence, I don't know. So they ran him over hurdles, and that came at Fairyhouse, and he was in the process of running a huge race, and again, probably going to win it, when he fell at the second last, I think it was. And I think that put in their head, in the connections' minds, that actually this horse is well handicapped. And I think he was. And I think after that, when he went to Leopardstown, the next 2 runs, they weren't with those races in mind. They had the Cheltenham Festival in mind. They knew he ran well at Cheltenham. They may well have had the Leopardstown race in February in the Dublin Racing Festival as a plan, and he finished 6th. He ran all right. He'd already won at Leopardstown before he finished 2nd at Cheltenham the year before, so Leopardstown was a course they knew he ran well at. He turned up at Cheltenham. He ran a good race. He's not done anything since. It was disappointing last time. Went only 2nd. This is another horse that I do think can pick up a big handicap. I do think they'll try both Leopardstown and Cheltenham again. I want them to go back over fences this year. I think he looked quite big and a bit gangly over his fences. I thought he looked too big for the hurdles, and I think he was suited better to the fences. And it may well be that Gigginstown thought they had one, possibly with Embittered. They might have thought he was their number one in the Grand Annual, and they didn't need another one in Eclair De Beaufort. So they ran him in the county, and he ran well. He finished 4th, but I think they might send him back over fences. If he does, look out for him at Leopardstown, look out for him at Cheltenham, and hopefully he can reward us by winning a race. And if he runs a couple of disappointing runs before then, we might get a bigger price on him than what we should do, really. So that's part 2 of my horses to follow. Let me know what you think. I imagine I'll hear most about Solo, because after his one win at Kempton, he's not looked the best. But I've just got a little niggly feeling about him that he's better than what he's shown. So thanks for listening, and part 3 will be coming shortly.